The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, they looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. When they finally reached the stars, they found that they were not alone. The galaxy was full of life, and that life had been watching them for a very long time. The Galactic Assembly was a council of 12 ancient species. They had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had fought great wars and made great peace. By the time humanity arrived, these 12 species believed they had seen everything the universe had to offer. They were wrong. Humans came to the assembly 60 years ago, carried on ships that moved slowly through space. Their technology was simple. Their weapons were weak. Their bodies were soft and fragile, and they lived for less than 100 years. To the elder species, humans were like children who had wandered into a room full of adults. Ambassador Ho was the first human to stand before the full assembly. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a gentle voice. He wore a simple gray suit, nothing like the flowing robes and shining armor of the alien delegates. When he spoke, his words were translated into 100 languages. "We come in peace," he said. "We come to learn, we come to share what little we have." The assembly listened politely. They had heard such words before from young species. Most of them would make demands within a year. Most of them would start wars within 10. Humans, they assumed, would be no different. But humans were different. In the first year, human scientists shared their research on faster-than-light communication. It was not as good as what the elder species had, but it used different methods that improved existing systems. Though the ruling species of the assembly took this research without thanks, humans did not complain. In the second year, human doctors traveled to Prime. They were dying from a plague that had haunted them for centuries. Human medicine was simple, but human doctors were creative. They found a treatment that worked. Millions of lives were saved. They did not say thank you. They said that humans had only done what was expected of new assembly members. Lieutenant served as Ho's aide. She was young, barely 30 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Every day, she sat in the assembly chamber and watched the alien delegates. She recorded their words and their actions. She noticed things that Ambassador Ho chose not to see. She noticed how they spoke about humans when they thought no one was listening. They called them useful insects. She noticed how a proud warrior species, laughed at human soldiers. She noticed how they took human medical knowledge and claimed it as their own. One evening, she brought her concerns to the ambassador. They sat in his small office on the human station, drinking tea and looking out at the stars. "They do not respect us," said. "They take everything we give and offer nothing in return." Ho smiled sadly. "I know," he said, "but respect must be earned. We are new here, we must prove ourselves." "How much must we prove?" asked. "How much must we give before they see us as equals?" The ambassador did not answer. He did not have an answer to give. Years passed. Humans continued to give. When the collective faced economic collapse, Admiral redirected human cargo ships to deliver aid. They had never asked for help. They were too proud to ask. But they took the help anyway, and when their economy recovered, they said it was because of their own strength. When they needed soldiers for a border war against pirates, human volunteers stepped forward. They were not the strongest soldiers. They were not the fastest or the most skilled, but they were brave, and they were willing to die for people who did not even know their names. 300 human soldiers went to fight in the border war. 87 came home. Admiral met the returning soldiers at the space station. He shook each of their hands. He looked into their eyes and saw the things they had seen. He asked them if they had thanked them for their sacrifice. They had not. Joined the assembly in the 20th year. She was a small woman with a soft voice, but she had a mind like a knife. She was supposed to represent humanity's interests, but she quickly learned that humanity's interests meant nothing to the assembly. The voting system was simple. Each species had one vote. Majority ruled. With 12 species, 7 votes were needed to pass any decision. Humanity had one vote. The elder species had 11. In 60 years, humanity never won a single contested vote. Brought proposals to help human colonies. They were rejected. She brought complaints about unfair trade agreements. They were ignored. She brought evidence of ships attacking human merchants. The assembly said there was not enough proof. She learned to smile and nod and accept defeat gracefully. She learned to hide her anger behind polite words. She learned that in the Galactic Assembly, humans were not members. They were guests who had overstayed their welcome. But still humans gave. Engineer Wu designed power systems that lit up alien cities. Doctor created medicines that cured alien diseases. Teacher Park educated alien children on distant worlds. Farmer showed alien colonies how to grow food in harsh soil. They gave because that was who humans were. They gave because they believed that kindness would be returned with kindness. They gave because they hoped that one day the assembly would see them as equals. They were wrong. In the 59th year, Ambassador Ho retired. He was old now, his hair white and his hands shaking. Lieutenant, now a captain, came to say goodbye. "Do you have any regrets?" she asked. Ho looked out at the stars he had spent his life trying to reach. He thought about all the treaties he had signed, all the hands he had shaken, all the smiles he had forced onto his face. "I regret nothing," he said. "We showed them who we are. We showed them that humans are kind and generous and good. Whatever happens next, they cannot say they did not know." Did not understand what he meant, not yet. But she would, soon everyone would. Because in the 60th year, something happened that changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 4 was a beautiful world. It sat at the edge of assembly space, far from Earth but close to human hearts. 3 million humans called it home. They had built silver cities that touched the clouds. They had planted golden fields that stretched to the horizon. They had turned a dead rock into a paradise. It had taken 50 years. 50 years of hard work, sacrifice, and hope. 50 years of parents teaching children and those children teaching their own children. 4 was not just a colony. It was a dream made real. They wanted that dream. They were a proud species. They stood 7 feet tall, with thick gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. They had once ruled a great empire, but that empire had fallen long ago. Now they lived in the shadow of their former glory, always hungry for more. Their ambassador stood before the Galactic Assembly with a document in his clawed hands. He claimed that 4 sat on territory that had belonged to the Empire 3,000 years ago. He demanded that the planet be returned to them as compensation for historical wrongs. Ambassador Ho had retired, but he watched the broadcast from his home on Earth. His hands shook as he listened to these words. He knew what was coming. Stood to speak. She was calm, her voice steady, but inside she was burning with anger. She had prepared for this moment her entire career. She had gathered evidence and built arguments. She was ready to fight. "The claim is false," she said. 4 was empty when humans arrived. There were no settlements, no artifacts, no anything. We terraformed that planet with our own hands. We have legal deeds signed by the Assembly itself. This claim has no basis in law or truth. The ambassador laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Human law means nothing," he said. "The Assembly will decide what is right." Looked around the chamber. She looked at the delegates, the ones she had worked with for 20 years. She looked at the ones human doctors had saved. She looked at the who used human medicine every single day. None of them met her eyes. The debate lasted 7 hours, spoke until her voice was raw. She showed maps and documents and recordings. She begged and argued and pleaded. She reminded the Assembly of everything humans had done, everything they had given, everything they had sacrificed. It did not matter. The vote was called. One by one the species cast their votes, voted to give 4 to the, voted to give 4 to the, voted to give 4 to the. 11 species voted against humanity. Only humanity voted for itself. Sat frozen in her chair as the result was announced. She could not breathe. She could not think. 3 million people, 3 million human lives, gone with a simple vote. High the rose to speak. He was an ancient creature, covered in blue scales that had turned gray with age. He had led the assembly for 200 years. His word was law. "The matter is settled," he said. 4 will be transferred to the collective within 1 standard year. The human colonists will be relocated to other worlds. Found her voice. "Where?" she asked. "Where will 3 million people go? Who will take them?" And waved a clawed hand dismissively. "That is a human problem," he said. "Humans are adaptable. You have said so yourselves many times. I am sure you will find a solution." Stared at him. In that moment she understood something that she had refused to believe for 20 years. The assembly did not see humans as people. They saw them as things. Useful things sometimes. Annoying things other times, but never as equals. Never as beings worthy of respect. She stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak, but she forced them to hold her weight. "This is wrong," she said. Her voice was quiet, but every ear in the chamber heard her. "This is unjust. This is a crime." Anne's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, human. The assembly has spoken. To question the assembly is to question the order of the galaxy." "Then perhaps the order of the galaxy is broken." Turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not bow. She did not apologize. She simply left and the doors closed behind her. No relocation ships ever came for 4. They arrived with their warships instead. They surrounded the planet and demanded surrender. The humans of 4 had no weapons, no military, no way to fight back. They sent messages to Earth begging for help. Earth sent messages to the assembly begging for intervention. The assembly said the matter was closed. They took 4 in a single day. There was no battle because there was nothing to fight with. The silver cities fell silent. The golden fields were trampled under boots. 3 million humans became property of the collective. They called it assimilation. They said the humans would be given useful work. They said the humans should be grateful for the opportunity to serve a great species. The truth was much darker. Humans on 4 became slaves. They worked in mines and factories. They cleaned homes and raised children. They were beaten when they moved too slowly and killed when they resisted. Admiral received the final transmission from 4 6 months after the takeover. It came from a broken communicator, sent by a young girl who had hidden in the ruins of a silver city. "Please help us," she said. Her voice was small and scared. "They are hurting us. They are hurting my mother and father. Please, someone, anyone, help us." The transmission cut off. Static filled the speakers, then silence. Admiral played the recording once. He sat alone in his quarters and listened to that little girl's voice. He listened to her fear and her pain and her desperate hope that someone would come. He locked himself in his quarters for 3 days. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He just sat in the dark and thought about what the galaxy had done to his people. When he finally came out, his aide noticed something different about him. His eyes had changed. The warmth that had always been there was gone. The kindness that had defined him for 30 years had disappeared. What remained was cold, empty, hard as stone. "Admiral," his aide asked carefully, "what are your orders?" Looked at him, his face showed nothing. "Contact Director," he said. "Tell her it is time to have a conversation. Tell her the humans of Earth need to make a choice." The aide did not ask what the choice was. He did not need to. He had heard the recording too. He had heard that little girl crying in the dark. He already knew what the choice would be. The galaxy expected rage. The galaxy expected war. The galaxy expected humanity to scream and cry and throw tantrums like the young species they were believed to be. The galaxy got silence. Director sat in her office on Earth and read reports from across human space. She was 53 years old with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes that told of sleepless nights. She had led the human diplomatic corps for 15 years. She had believed in cooperation. She had believed in partnership. She did not believe in those things anymore. Admiral stood before her desk. His face was still empty, but his voice was calm. "The Assembly expects us to react," he said. "They expect anger. If we give them anger, they will call us aggressive. They will use it to justify what they did." "So we give them nothing," said. "We give them exactly nothing." The plan was simple. Humans would not fight, humans would not protest, humans would not even complain. They would simply stop giving, quietly, politely, one piece at a time. The withdrawal began with ambassador recalls. Human diplomats on assembly worlds received messages telling them to come home for routine reassignments. They packed their bags, smiled at their alien colleagues, and left. They said they would be back soon. They would not be back. Captain oversaw the recall from the. She had served there for 10 years, longer than any other human diplomat. They had never learned her name. They called her the human secretary. On her last day, Hyan summoned her to his office. He wanted to discuss new trade agreements. He wanted more human cargo ships to carry goods. He wanted human engineers to maintain power plants. "I am sorry," said with a polite smile. "I have been reassigned. You will need to speak with my replacement." "When will your replacement arrive?" Anne asked. "Soon," she said. No replacement ever came. Engineer Wu received his orders 3 weeks later. His team had spent 20 years maintaining critical systems on alien worlds. They had built power grids and water treatment plants and communication networks. They had kept the machinery of the galaxy running. Now they were told to bring that machinery home. Wu traveled to Prime first. The water purification systems there were human designs, built by human hands. They cleaned the water for 3 billion. Without those systems, the water would become poison within months. "We need to perform maintenance," Wu told the officials. "The filters must be replaced. We will remove the old systems and install new ones." The officials agreed. Why would they not? Humans had always maintained their systems. Humans had always returned. Wu removed the filters. He removed the pumps. He removed every piece of human technology from the water systems. He loaded it all onto human ships. He did not install new systems. He did not leave instructions. He simply smiled, said goodbye, and left. On the stations, human engineers did the same thing. Power grids went dark. Life support systems went offline. They screamed and demanded that the humans fix what they had broken. The humans said they were very sorry, but they had been reassigned. Perhaps they could hire someone else. Doctor was the last to leave. She had spent 30 years developing a cure for the genetic disease. They were dying. Their DNA was falling apart, generation by generation. Without treatment, they would be extinct within 500 years. Had found a cure. She had tested it and perfected it. She was ready to share it with the galaxy. Then 4 happened. The ambassador came to her laboratory on Earth. He was a tall, thin creature with silver skin and large black eyes. He looked sick because he was sick. His entire species was sick. "Doctor," he said, "we have heard that your research is complete. We beg you to share it with us. Our people are dying." Looked at him for a long moment. She thought about the vote in the assembly. She thought about how they had chosen to give 4 to the. She thought about 3 million humans who were now slaves. "I am sorry," she said. "My research is still in the testing phase. It is not ready for distribution." "But we have heard." "You have heard wrong. Please leave my laboratory." The ambassador left. He sent messages every day for a month, did not answer. She moved her research to encrypted human servers. She told her staff to say nothing. The cure existed, it worked, but they would never receive it. Trade ships changed their routes. Human cargo vessels had always taken the dangerous paths, the unprofitable runs, the routes that connected distant colonies to the rest of the galaxy. No other species wanted those routes. They were too risky, too expensive, too far from anything important. Humans had taken them anyway, because humans believed in helping others. Now human ships went home. They carried human goods to human colonies. They served human interests. The dangerous routes went empty. Small colonies began to starve. Outposts ran out of medicine. Research stations lost contact with civilization. The Assembly sent messages to Earth asking why human ships had stopped coming. Earth said there had been budget cuts. Earth said there were new priorities. Earth said they were very sorry for any inconvenience. The withdrawal happened slowly, over months and years. It was so quiet, so polite, that most aliens did not notice until it was too late. One day they looked around and realized that the humans were simply gone. Delivered the final address to the Assembly. She stood in the same chamber where she had lost the vote on 4. She stood before the same delegates who had voted against her people. Her voice was calm, her face was peaceful. There was no anger in her words, only a quiet sadness. The humans of Earth thank the Galactic Assembly for 60 years of education, she said. We came here as children, eager to learn. You taught us well. You taught us what we are worth in your eyes. You taught us how much our kindness means to you. You taught us what happens when we trust others with our lives. She paused and looked around the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at her with confusion. They did not understand what she was saying. We have learned our lessons, continued. We understand our place in the galaxy now, so we wish you well in your future endeavors. We hope you find success without us. She bowed once, slowly and formally. Then she turned and walked toward the door. Hyan called after her. Where are you going? What does this mean? What are humans planning? Stopped at the door, she looked back over her shoulder. We are not planning anything, she said. We are simply going home. Goodbye, Hai, I do not think we will speak again. The door closed behind her. The chamber fell silent. All of them sat in their chairs and wondered what had just happened. They did not know yet. They would not understand for many months. But when they finally understood, it would be too late. The humans were gone, and they had taken everything with them. The first crisis came within 6 months. It started on Prime, the heart of the Galactic Assembly, the most powerful world in known space. The water turned brown. 3 billion woke up one morning to find that their taps produced dirty, poisonous liquid. The filters were gone. The purification systems were gone. Everything that had made their water safe to drink had been removed by human engineers who had smiled and said they would be back soon. They were not back. Hyan called an emergency meeting of the Assembly. His scales had lost their color. His claws shook as he read reports from across his. People were dying. Children were dying. The hospitals were full and the water tanks were empty. Contact the humans, he ordered. Tell them we need their engineers to return immediately. Tell them we will pay any price. Messages were sent to Earth. Urgent requests, official demands, diplomatic pleas. Earth did not respond. A week passed, then 2 weeks, then a month. They dug old wells that had been sealed for centuries. They built simple filters that barely worked. They rationed water until families received only 1 cup per day. Still, Earth did not respond. The plague returned 3 months later. It was the same disease that had killed millions before human doctors arrived. But now it was stronger, changed by years of hiding in bodies. Human medicine had held it back. Human treatments had kept people alive. Now there was no human medicine. Doctor received hundreds of messages from hospitals. They begged for supplies. They begged for doctors. They begged for the knowledge that human scientists had shared freely for decades. Read each message carefully, then she deleted them. They took without thanks, she said to her assistant. They demanded without asking. They voted to give our people to the, now they ask us to save them. Her assistant, a young man named One, looked uncomfortable. But innocent people are dying, he said. Children who had nothing to do with the assembly's vote. Was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was tired. I know, she said, and that makes this harder than any war. But if we go back now, if we help them now, nothing will change. They will take our help and forget our sacrifice just like before. They will vote against us again when it suits them. The cycle will never end unless we end it. One did not argue. He had seen the recordings from 4. He had heard the little girl's voice. They were next. Their genetic disease, the one doctor had cured, began to spread faster than ever before. Without human treatments, their DNA continued to fall apart. Children were born with terrible deformities. Adults died years before their time. The entire species could see extinction coming for them, slow but certain. The ambassador returned to Earth. He knelt before the gates of the human diplomatic headquarters and begged for help. He stayed there for 3 days, refusing to eat or drink. News cameras from across the galaxy filmed his suffering. Director watched the footage from her office. Her face showed nothing. Send him water and food, she said finally. We are not cruel, but tell him the answer is still no. Our research is not available. The ambassador returned to his empty-handed. His government fell within the year. Chaos spread across space as people fought over the few treatments that remained. Trade routes collapsed completely by the end of the first year. Human cargo ships had been the blood of the galaxy, carrying goods to places that no one else would go. Without them, small colonies were cut off from civilization. Supplies ran out. People starved. Entire worlds went dark. The assembly tried to replace human ships with their own, but their captains refused to take the dangerous routes. Why should they risk their lives for colonies that could not pay proper fees? Why should they fly into asteroid fields and radiation storms for strangers? Humans had done it because they cared about strangers. The other species did not. And then there was 4. They had taken the planet with such pride. They had marched into the silver cities and claimed everything as their own. They had made slaves of 3 million humans and put them to work in mines and factories. But the planet began to die. Human terraforming was not magic. It was science, and science required maintenance. The machines that cleaned the air needed human technicians. The systems that kept the soil fertile needed human engineers. The technology that held back the natural poison of the planet needed human hands to run it. They had none of these things. Within 18 months, the golden fields turned to dust. The silver cities cracked and crumbled as their foundations failed. The air became thick with chemicals that burned lungs. The water became toxic even by standards. The 3 million human slaves were dying too, but they were dying slower than their masters. Their bodies, adapted to 4 over 50 years, could survive conditions that killed in weeks. The collective faced a choice. They could stay on a dying planet and die with it, or they could leave. They chose to leave, but before they left, they had one more decision to make. What to do with the humans? Some wanted to kill them all. They blamed humans for the planet's collapse. They said humans had sabotaged the systems on purpose. They wanted revenge. Others had a different idea. The humans were still valuable, they argued. Earth would pay to get them back. The assembly would respect a gesture of goodwill. In the end, greed won over hatred. They sent a message to Earth. They offered to return all surviving humans from 4 as a gift of friendship. They expected Earth to be grateful. They expected Earth to thank them and perhaps restore trade relations. Earth's response came from Admiral himself. "We accept your offer," he said. "We will collect our people, but we will give you nothing in return. You took them. You broke them. You do not get to sell them back to us." The Admiral led the rescue fleet personally. 100 human warships entered space. They were not the largest ships. They were not the most advanced. But they were crewed by humans who had waited 3 years for this moment. Landed on 4 himself, he walked through the ruins of the Silver Cities. He saw the mass graves where humans had been buried without names. He saw the chains that had bound human hands. He saw the cages where human children had been kept. His face showed nothing. His eyes were empty. The surviving humans were loaded onto rescue ships. There were fewer than 2 million left. 1 million had died in 3 years of slavery. Spoke to each survivor personally. He held their hands. He looked into their eyes. He promised them that Earth would be their home now. He promised them that they would never be abandoned again. The last person he spoke to was a young woman. She had been 12 years old when they came. She was 15 now, thin and old beyond her years. "I sent a message," she whispered. "3 years ago I asked for help." His jaw tightened. "I know," he said. "I received it. I have never forgotten it." "Why did it take so long?" The Admiral was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with pain. "Because we had to make sure that this would never happen again. Because we had to change everything. Because we had to become something new." He took her hand gently. "I am sorry it took so long. I am sorry we could not save everyone. But I promise you this. The galaxy will never forget what they did to us, and they will never do it again." The fleet left 3 days later. They brought every surviving human home. They left nothing behind but ruins and dust. They were alone on a dead world. They had won their prize. It had cost them everything. The Galactic Assembly met in emergency session. The great chamber, which had hosted 10,000 years of history, felt empty and cold. Half the seats were barely filled. Many delegates could not afford to travel anymore. Many were dealing with crises at home. Hyan stood at the central platform. He had aged 20 years in the past 3. His scales were gray and cracked. His voice was weak. He looked like a creature waiting to die. "We must discuss the human problem," he said. The human seat was empty. It had been empty for 3 years. "They have abandoned their responsibilities," the delegate growled. He was new, the 5th ambassador in 3 years. The others had been executed for their failure on 4. "They have sabotaged our worlds. They have caused this chaos deliberately." "Have they?" asked the delegate. She was younger than most, only 200 years old, too young to remember the time before humans. "Or did we cause it ourselves?" The chamber exploded in argument. The blamed the for starting the crisis with 4. The blamed the for failing to control the humans. The blamed everyone for ignoring their suffering. The blamed the assembly for its arrogance. And raised a trembling hand for silence. "Enough," he said. "Blame will not bring back the humans. We must find a way to make them return." "We could force them," they said. "Our fleets are still strong. We could attack Earth and make them serve us." There was a moment of silence. Then the delegate laughed bitterly. "Attack Earth? With what? Our ships cannot fly without fuel. Our weapons cannot fire without power cells. Our soldiers cannot fight without food. All of these things came through trade routes that humans maintained. We could not reach Earth even if we tried." "Then we negotiate," and said. "We send diplomats. We offer them whatever they want." Diplomats had already been sent, dozens of them over 3 years. They arrived at Earth's borders and requested permission to land. They were told, politely but firmly, that Earth was not accepting visitors at this time. They tried anyway. They flew toward Earth without permission. Human defense platforms fired warning shots across their paths. The message was clear: turn back or be destroyed. No one doubted that the humans would follow through. The species that had been so gentle, so kind, so eager to please had become something else, something cold, something that did not forgive. Trade offers were sent. Earth could have anything it wanted: resources, technology, territory. The assembly would give humans a seat on the High Council itself. They would be equals finally after 60 years of being treated like children. Director's response came 3 weeks later. It was broadcast to every world in assembly space. Every screen, every speaker, every communication device carried her words. She stood in a simple room with a gray wall behind her. She wore a plain black suit. Her hair was completely white now, though she was only in her 60s. The stress of the past 3 years had taken its toll. For 60 years humanity gave, she began. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. We gave our medicine and our machines. We gave our labor and our lives. We gave our soldiers to fight in wars that were not ours. We gave our doctors to cure diseases that did not touch us. We gave our engineers to build systems we would never use. Images appeared on screens across the galaxy. Human doctors working in hospitals. Human soldiers dying in wars. Human engineers building power plants on worlds. We asked for nothing in return. We believed that kindness would be met with kindness. We believed that generosity would create friendship. We believed that if we proved ourselves worthy, you would accept us as equals. The images changed. The assembly vote on 4, the ships arriving at the colony, human slaves in chains, mass graves in the dust. You taught us the truth. You taught us that kindness is weakness to you. You taught us that generosity is something to be exploited. You taught us that no matter how much we give, we will never be your equals in your eyes. Paused, her expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted, a deep tiredness, a profound sadness. So we learned the lesson you taught us, and now you ask us to come back. You offer us seats on your councils, you promise us equality, you say things will be different. She shook her head slowly. We do not believe you. We cannot believe you. 4 will never let us believe you again. The images disappeared, only remained on screen. We are not warriors, we will not attack you. We are not cruel, we will not seek revenge. We are simply finished. Whatever happens to the assembly now is your problem. You have 11 species. Surely that is enough. She straightened slightly. Her voice became formal. This is the last communication Earth will send to the Galactic Assembly. Do not contact us again. We will not respond. Goodbye. The broadcast ended. The assembly descended into chaos. The delegation walked out first. They announced that they were leaving the assembly and would handle their own affairs from now on. The followed, blaming the other species for their suffering. The smaller species, the ones who had always been ignored, began to demand changes that the larger species refused to give. Old alliances fell apart. Old grudges resurfaced. The end that had been rivals for, held together only by the structure of the assembly. Without that structure, without the humans who had patched every crack and smoothed every conflict, the hatred came flooding back. Border skirmishes became battles. Battles became wars. Within 2 years, the Galactic Assembly existed only on paper. In reality, it was a collection of angry species who blamed each other for everything that had gone wrong. Admiral watched the chaos from Earth's monitoring stations. The screens showed ships firing on each other, worlds burning, civilizations crumbling. Everything the assembly had built over 10,000 years was falling apart in front of his eyes. Captain stood beside him. She was an admiral now herself, in charge of Earth's defense forces. She had watched the galaxy since she was a young lieutenant. She had seen everything. They are destroying each other, she said quietly. Yes, replied. Do you feel anything? Thought about the question. He thought about 4. He thought about the little girl's voice on the communicator. He thought about the million humans who had died in chains. No, he said finally. I do not feel anything for them. They made their choice. They voted against us. They took our people. They laughed while we suffered. And now they suffer, said. And now they suffer. They watched the screens in silence. A battleship exploded in a flash of light. A station fell toward a planet's surface. A colony sent out distress signals that no one would answer. What do we do now? Asked. Turned away from the screens. His face was still empty, but something had changed in his posture. The weight he had carried for years seemed lighter somehow. Now we live, he said. We build, we grow. We take care of our own people. We become strong, not so we can hurt others, but so no one can ever hurt us again. And the assembly? The assembly is dead. It just does not know it yet. Nodded slowly. She looked at the screens one last time. I thought I would enjoy this, she admitted. Watching them fall, but I do not enjoy it, I just feel empty. That is because we are not cruel, said. We never wanted this. We wanted friendship. We wanted peace. We wanted to belong. They could not give us any of those things, so we took ourselves away. The consequences are theirs, not ours. He walked toward the door. He did not look back at the screens. Come, he said. There is work to do. Earth needs us. Our people need us. Let the galaxy burn if it must. We have our own world to build. Followed him out. The door closed behind them, shutting out the images of destruction and war. Earth continued to spin in the darkness. 3 years ago, it had been a small voice in a vast galaxy. Now it was silent, separate, alone. And for the first time in 60 years, humanity was at peace.